Hey everybody, welcome to the Growing with Fishes podcast. Um, Episode number 47. We're still having a couple of issues trying to get the guest in the channel, but it looks like we are going to be able to get him in, hopefully. We might take him a little bit longer. He had to reboot a couple of times and we had to fix a couple of things, so apologize for being late. I'm also literally just pulled into my driveway at the new place at like 5:30 and hopped on, immediately ran to set up my computer, so I apologize. How's everybody doing this week?
Good man, how you doing?
I'm doing good. Just a little crazy. What's
Good.
what's new
Yeah.
with you while we're waiting?
Just cleaned out one of the trim bins. Got some good old sifs there working on.
Do you
So
want to tell people what a trim bin is, or maybe show them if they haven't seen one? I don't know how handy it
it's
is.
downstairs, and I'm too lazy for that. But maybe next week. But basically, it's just a bin that has. I guess technically it's two bins. It's like a tub. It's got a little place for your arms to fit in, so that you can trim inside of kind of I don't know what's the best. I guess it's like half of a tub, and it's got a screen on the bottom, and then another tub underneath it, so that the screen filters out all of the basically everything except for the trach heads and maybe some really small plant material. But it's pretty good. Mostly the ones I have. I'll bring it up next week and show you guys. But basically, it's just a way for the trichomes to settle down into a second layer, and you trim inside of it, so you don't make a big mess all over the place anyway. So that's it.
What size of screen does it have in it?
I have no idea. It's about like that. You mean micron size, I'm sure, but
Yeah.
I don't know. But it's got to be pretty small because there's not much of anything in here. I mean, I'm sure there's a little bit, but it's pretty good. My camera is shitty, or else I'd try and show you better than that. But I posted a picture of it in the group earlier. If you want to check that out.
Nice.
Let's see. Other than that, still house shopping. I'm gonna go look at a couple of houses, and yeah, that's pretty much about it. Gardening wise, let's see. I made a video about doing a flower power plant extraction, so that's up on Patreon. I had my kids go around and collect a bunch of like dandelions and different stuff like that, and threw it in. Recorded a video on that. So that should be done in, about a week and a half or so. I'll feed that and hitting the girls about twice a week with tea right now, but I'm just in vegging, so not too much going on. Just chilling.
Awesome. Hey, welcome, Hogmaster.
Sorry about that.
No problem. We all have had technical issues at one point or another. I know there was an episode where I think when I was in Jamaica, Marty, you remember that, where my mic wouldn't work, and then when my mic would work, my camera wouldn't work, and then when my camera wouldn't work, my mic would work, and then it would disconnect, and we go through all kinds of crap.
And then we had one where neither one of us could broadcast video to it. We still don't know.
Oh yeah, that was weird.
Like everything worked fine, but neither one of it, like it wouldn't take video or do anything at all. So it's a little finicky sometimes, for sure.
That's crazy. I ended up having to use my phone. All things.
Yep.
Old school.
Right?
Yep.
Sometimes the backups are the best.
That was the only thing I could figure to do, so I was about to throw the computer out the window.
Well, thanks for joining us. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself? I know you were a veteran and had a chance to you served in the military for us, and you had some issues with PTSD and some other things coming back that affected you, and you've really been a really good example of how cannabis can help people, advance and help out, especially with veterans dealing with similar situations. Thanks very much for joining us this week.
Well, I appreciate you having me. Yeah, I served for 8 years, and after that, worked, and I got hurt at work and ended up getting a fusion in my spine. I have 2 6-inch rods, 6 screws, and they put me on methadone and oxycodone and hydrocodone and for relaxers, and here recently, I've made up my mind that I was done with the crap and decided to go 100% medical cannabis. And I have been almost 4 months clean now.
That's impressive.
Congratulations. Yeah, congratulations.
It was very hard. I mean, don't get me wrong, you're still going to have the feeling of the withdrawals for at least a week to a week and a half, because I went from 250 10 milligram heck, I've been on so much stuff, but methadone, and dwindled it down to 90 within 3 months, and then just cold turkey quit here just a few months ago, and been using oils, waxes, edibles, and smoking, and have no desire to go back to it. And my head's been clearer than it's been in at least 10 years since before the surgery.
That's really cool.
That's wonderful. How did you what made you decide to turn to cannabis for the to treat that?
And I ended up finding some really good genetics through Robert Bergman at ILGM, and I've just had really good luck with the people that are even on there. I mean, there's just so much help. And I've been growing for several years, but just recently started indoor. And it's just the quality is, I mean, that's the number one thing. If you're wanting to get off of pharmaceuticals, your genetics are 100%. They got to be good.
So are you primarily using your own homegrown meds?
Yes. I grow for myself. I've been growing for about 20 years.
And what strain?
Go ahead.
What strains do you find have helped you the most?
Currently, I found that Chronic Widow, Afghan, White Widow, and what else was there? Bubblegum. Those are 4. And the Super Skunk I've also had very good luck with. I also make my own waxes and edibles, so that helps as well.
Sure. Do you want to talk a little bit about like maybe some of the different strategies you use? You mentioned, taking it in several different ways, which I think is important. Do you want to talk about some of the reasons why you choose to do more than just one, like say just edibles or just smoking?
I've been just kind of piddling to find out what works best for me.
Mm-hmm.
And to be honest, I've had great luck with every one of them. Just smoking a number, getting a couple hits off of it, I can tell just a huge difference. I mean, even taking a dab, I mean, it's the same thing. It just lasts longer.
Sure.
So, but I mean, the medicinal use, regardless of how I ingest it, I've had very good luck. Whether it be one of the brownie recipes that I have, I cook my butters for about 48 to 60 hours. And then I have my butter, and it is potent, and it does wonderful.
Yeah, that's the great part about butter or infused coconut oil or anything like that is then you can use it in lots of different stuff, right?
Yeah, it's been wonders. It really has. I mean, you can even make chocolates. I mean, just about anything you can use butter for, you can make some macaroni and cheese with it.
Yeah, green eggs and ham has been made once upon a time.
Yes, it has.
I'm a,
It's pretty
I'm a
good.
big I'm a big fan of green rice. You put that on some tacos.
Oh,
Wow.
you can't do that.
Yeah.
I'm not kidding. Green eggs and ham is delicious. If you haven't tried it,
Yeah.
you should.
Especially with some blue cheese, complements the cannabis flavor with the eggs. So good.
That's funny because I just got some blue cheese at the grocery store today.
All right. I
I
know. I know. I've been. I don't know what kind of extractions are you doing? Are you doing CO2 or BHO or rosin or?
Here lately, I've just been using grain alcohol.
Okay. Do you want to explain to people a little bit of that kind of method? A lot of people out there aren't familiar with alcohol extraction.
Well, there's actually several different ways that I've done shatters with using the alcohol. I've done RSO oils with it, and I've also make. Oh man, let's see here. I like to use a double boiler method. You definitely have to make sure you have great ventilation no matter what you are making, whether it be with alcohol or the benzo, because this stuff is, you'll blow your house up. So I highly recommend fans and ventilation.
Doing it outside.
Absolutely, if that's an option, that's probably one of the best. But I like doing the double boiler method. I lay out a 14 by 10 inch glass pan, and I'll actually start out with my cannabis. I'll throw it in the freezer. I'll throw my alcohol in the freezer for 24 hours, and I'll take a stick and kind of like I'm making bubble hash a little bit, get it worked around. I'll put it in a coffee filter, and sorry, I got lost there for a second. For my RSO, it depends which method you're wanting to hear about. If you want to hear how I make my RSO, if you want to hear how I make my shatter, I also make bubble
I
hash.
was actually interested in hearing how you make your shatter from your grain alcohol.
Okay, I will take the double boiler method, and I will. It's almost identical to making RSO oil. I mean, it's practically the same, except you're laying it out in a bigger pan and you're cooking it longer, and it'll finally bubble itself out to where there'll be no bubbles. I pull it off, let it set, and scrape the stuff off, and it's a beautiful yellow color.
Now, do you do your extraction? You do the whole extraction cold? You were saying,
No, I.
oh wait, no, that was with your butter. You go ahead.
No, I use the double boiler method. I heat it up, get it hot, get it all cooked, and then I'll strain it into the bigger pan through a coffee filter, and then allow it to cook off of it. So I'm actually cooking it twice, if that makes sense.
Yep.
Okay, okay.
That's really awesome. You don't hear too many people making the ethyl extract. It's definitely safer than BHO, but it does still have some risks. So, disclaimer: we're not responsible if you blow yourself up using any of these methods.
Absolutely. And there's always bubble hash is fun to make, and I cheap, so I have the nice flat hair straightener with the clamps. I'll make bubble hash and then squeeze it and get the resin out of it as well.
Nice. What kind of returns do you get with the hair straightener?
Depends how much I decide to make. I normally only do 1 gallon bag. I have 1 gallon bubble bags, so I don't do a whole lot at a time. I'll do maybe 2 ounces at a time, and I'll get at least 2 grams, 3 grams out of that. I mean, the grade of it, I mean, depends how I end up doing at that time, because sometimes I'll just mix it all together, and sometimes I'll separate the grades also of the bubble hash before I press it.
I found it makes a big difference to separate your, your 73 micron and your 25 micron, compared to, say, those are much cleaner burning, especially when in the dabber, than, your 120 and especially the 160. The 160 definitely has a little bit of extra junk in it, but the 120 is a little, mostly clean, and then your 73 is super clean. And some people have a 45 too, which is also pretty good, but 73 is your gland head size. So
yeah, usually whenever I do,
yeah, as well as 90 micron, that one's also super fire.
Yep.
Yeah, whenever I do my 73, I usually end up just doing like a keef extraction with dry ice, and then I'll extract it that way.
Okay. Yeah. Have you find that you get with the rosin, do you find that it affects the quality with dry ice versus bubble?
Yeah, I think I can tell a huge difference. I think it's much better bubble than with the dry ice.
Yeah, I kind of reached the same conclusion too, having tried dry sift and the ice dry ice and then the bubble. Seems like the dry sift and the bubble come out real clean, and then the the other what you call it, the dry ice comes out a lot dirtier because you end up with some of the frozen mash, crumbled, plant material. Looks like he's having a mic issue or something. So, what does anyone else here have bubble bags? What size do you guys use? I have a set of 50 or 5 gallon and a set of 30 gallon.
I have a set of the 1 gallon and a set of the 5 gallon, and I've yet to use the 5 gallon. I've used the 1 gallon over and over though.
Or I don't have any. I have extractor buddies.
Yeah, I don't have one. I don't have any either. I haven't never done it. Never got around to it. So
What do you-
find something else.
What do you like for agitation? I have just a power drill with a spatula on the end. It works really good. Hey, it
Yeah,
works.
actually, I have a video where that's exactly what I use in my extraction. And I've actually found like the slower you go on the first run, you'll get amazing quality on your first run, and then after that, I just go crazy and try and get everything that's left,
Yep. The other thing too, when you do the rosin, I don't know if you're doing this, you can take your pressed rosin bags, especially if you're doing bubble or dry sift or shit, even dry ice. You take it and you throw it in your crock pot or throw it in a pot with your butter, or your oil, or your sunflower oil, or your coconut butter. You cook it down, and you got to really, you're getting another whole other product off of your rosin production.
right?
So there's no reason to let that go to waste just because it's trapped in the filter material.
I have this process where I put all my trim in a big bag and I take it to my buddy and I go, here you go. And then I come back like a week later and then it's a slab. That's how it works. If you guys don't know.
I enjoy doing the extractions with the
I'm
bubble
sure.
bags anyway.
I just don't have time to do more shit and buy more shit.
I know, but it's just nice to have a really fire head stash,
But yeah, I mean, I have like, I'm well stocked anyway. It's just good to have good friends. That's
What do
all.
they just charge you a percentage of what they get out of it?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah,
We've
so like
been
standard.
friends a long time, so it's not
I'd be
really.
like, I don't want money, man. Just give me like 10% of your yield from it.
You know what the going rate is? The market rate for processing? It's between 40 and 50% take for the.
It's what now?
So if someone wants, for example, like in California, most of the people that I work with for the rosin production, we keep 40%, they get 60%.
Yeah, it's pretty
Damn.
standard, I think.
Okay.
But it's nice because then no money changes hands, and you don't have to worry about, it's just easier that way. Then you can turn around and sell it at your dispensary to your dispensary or
Yeah, I
package
would.
it up and whatever.
Hell yeah, I would definitely do that.
Especially in California, where it's nice and easy to just go to your dispensary. Whoa, Roger.
I'm sorry.
Ooh.
You're double joined. Hold on. Mute your mic, please. There you go. Awesome.
Squeaky.
Sorry about that. Now we're good. Sorry about that, guys. I didn't mean to.
No audio.
No, you got audio, buddy. We're there. Hello.
It's a good day for issues.
I know everybody's having problems today. Roger was working fine. You working, Roger?
Can
Hello,
you hear us?
Roger? Can you hear us?
I don't think so.
We can hear him. We can hear you. Anyways, I'll type to him in chat. Where were we?
Shit.
Bubble
I believe
bag.
we were talking about rosin. So who we got watching live tonight?
It's like Silver Arm 32. He was going to try and join us today. He's going to join us on the show here in the next couple of weeks. We're going to try and get him on as a regular. He's real interested in joining us regularly. For those of you guys who don't know, he's the YouTuber that has the longest running or continuous running aquaponic cannabis channel on the internet. As far as I'm aware, as best as any of us could research. So,
yeah, definitely. He's always doing all kinds of research for people.
Yep.
Yeah, I think he was the only one that had anything documented when I started as far as cannabis goes. That was, I guess, like 4 or 5 years ago now. But he was he was the only one I could find that was like you saying, continually posting updates and stuff like that. There's some like random dude from like 1992 that has like a half-ass presentation up where he's like, you guys see this? He's like injecting nutrients into the roots and shit like that. It's pretty.
What the fuck?
Yeah, it's pretty weird. But that's the oldest reference I can find to growing cannabis in aquaponics. But it's just like this one little like presentation thing, and I don't know, it's pretty weird.
There was that other guy. Remember I sent you that article? I was trying to dig up that article again, but I cannot find it. Remember it was like from it was like 96 or 95 or 97. It was from some obscure, it was like cannabis.com or marijuana.com or growboards.com or something like super ancient. It was like this old archived post. And it had a method where this guy was taking cannabis and he was growing it he had some kind of like I think he was using peat on top and then putting the hydro beads underneath, almost like a dual root zone, but then he was taking the waste from his filters and dumping the waste on top. So instead of like a soil layer, it was like a fish shit layer, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But the concept was similar, and then he was also adding a little bit of extra potassium into that fish shit layer.
I don't think I've seen that one. Sounds cool. But
yeah, I could have swore I sent that to you a long time ago. So when we like first started doing the show, I found it. So
you might have, and I just don't remember it. I do smoke a little bit of weed.
yeah, I posted it up on that Aquaponic Reddit, and then I don't know there was a guy named Cisco from Colorado. Used to be on Aquaponic Reddit Aquaponics a lot, and he like disappeared and like decided he didn't want to have anything to do with aquaponic cannabis or I don't know, something weird. So he's the admin of that group, and I can't get a hold of them to like relinquish it. So I might just have to make a new Reddit group, or trying to figure out like what platform everybody wants to have like a thing that's not connected to Facebook. Because I keep getting a request for like a second social portal for people. I do have growing with fishes.com, and we also have the aquaponic forum over at I Love Growing Marijuana. So maybe that's what we should direct people, at least for now.
That's
Yeah, I was
good.
gonna
Yeah,
say I do
welcome
enjoy
everybody.
the I do enjoy the forum over there at ILGM. Everybody's real friendly, like Roger's always saying.
Yep.
Sorry, guys. Sorry I screwed things up. I decided to put my laptop on, and I didn't know it was going to do that. So I apologize. The learning
It's okay.
experience.
Yeah,
But I'm back
happens.
inside. You know, too pretty to be in the dark. See.
Well,
So
Hogmaster, do you want to tell us a little bit more about I don't know how you know how cannabis, as somebody else is going through, trying to kick off of any of the things you mentioned. You know, I don't know if you want to go over them again, but you know how someone maybe as a family member, or maybe they themselves are trying to kick off of methadone or oxycontin or some of the other stuff. How would they get started with cannabis? You know, what would be your recommendation to someone that's been there and gone through that?
My recommendation is if you're in a legal state, that is awesome. If you're not, that's enter at your own risk terms there, I would say. But
sorry.
starting off, I'd absolutely go with getting the best quality cannabis you can find. And if you can go to the store and buy it, that's great. If you can't, then, I mean, some people have to grow it. So I personally prefer to grow myself because it ends up paying for itself in the long run, even with going to the pharmacist and going to the doctor. I mean, you're saving thousands of dollars a year to pharmaceutical companies. And the way I got off of it myself, I started just having a hit or two here and there, smoke a joint, just wean myself down till I felt comfortable completely stopping the medication. And then just the first, I'd say, week and a half after I had completely stopped the medicine, you will go through withdrawals. I don't care if you're down to 20 or 40 or 50 of them. The stuff that is in that medicine, we have no idea what they put in it. I got tired of putting stuff in my body that I did not know what it was. And my only other option that I felt that was safe, and I've been smoking this stuff for over 35 years, so
Have you ever had any experience with CBD varieties?
yes, I have actually. There's a state not too far from me where I can actually pick that up, and it's only around 3% CBD, but I was fortunate enough to find 5% on ILGM, and I've ordered it, and actually had a request from my mother and father because they want to do the same thing. My mother had breast cancer, has been a 10-year plus survivor, been through chemo 3 different times because the cancer's come back. And with my back surgery and everything they've seen me go through over the last years, they can't believe that I've lost over 100 pounds and stopped taking all that medication, and now they're willing to try it.
How many of us can say that our mom and dad want to try medical marijuana? Or something like
And my
that.
mom has never smoked in her life, never drank in her life, never done anything. If she's had alcohol, I've seen her drink twice. And I was shocked because she finally started to wake up and do some research, and one of her actually moved to Oregon and retired because he could get off all that crap and do that up there.
It's a legal state. You gotta love that.
So, well, and I think that was a big decision maker on her part to give it a shot. So, anything I can do to help them, anybody I can. 'Cause I've been
Absolutely.
there.
Well, it's a legal state despite all the efforts of the state regulators.
It's still legal in certain aspects. I mean, there's no doubt. You talk a lot of stuff about, the politics of legalization in Oregon or Washington or any of those. Obviously, I talk more about Oregon because I'm in Oregon. And there are a lot of downsides to legalization that have been put on the growers, and obviously myself included. But you can't make, or I guess you can't discount the fact that still, if you have the ability to walk into a dispensary and legally buy medication and treat yourself without getting arrested, you can, so it's obviously better than what a lot of states experience with total prohibition. You can just drive to Oregon and walk into a dispensary and buy extracts. You can buy, a number of different stuff. You don't have to have a medical card. So especially for people that are looking to try it, especially a lot of veterans, I would think would probably want to, especially if they've never experienced it before, you want to be able to try it out. That's a way that you can get access, where in other states you have to basically risk your freedom just to see if it might work for you. So there are still upsides with as much as we talk about Oregon legalization or California or basically any of the legal states have been sort of shitty for growers. At least for patients, you still get access where you don't have to risk your freedom. So that's a bright spot for Oregon for sure.
Absolutely. Yeah, I recently made a trip to Colorado, and I was shocked the price difference between there and what I've heard in California and other places. And
What are you? What is your price point you're referencing? I'm really curious on it now.
they were doing ounces of sift for $100.
Of dry sift?
Yeah.
Holy shit, that's not bad.
And if you were to go buy you'd buy an eighth for $35, get one for half off.
Mm-hmm.
So
Shit, $100 ounce of dry sift would be worth it just to press into rosin and bring it back to them.
I got 2 of them, so I was happy. And it was nice because the last day there, they had recognized me from a few other visits, so they were mighty kind on my choices of what I wanted to take.
It is kind of funny, and I was thinking about this especially where I was a couple of days ago. Especially when I was up at visiting Spectrum King, and then this other grow that wouldn't let me do video, but I'll tell you guys about once they let me tell you guys about that. I had to sign an NDA for at least a period of time before I could tell you about the other place. But we checked out, but I had a chance to go check out Spectrum King and stuff, and I had somebody with me that wasn't used to being around, just being in around the pot industry, and they had never seen trash bags full of weed before, and I'm sure all of us or most of us or a lot of people even listen to the show are super used to, you know, just having like pounds and pounds of trim or bud or whatever and working and processing it, and or even just at harvest time having like, you know, a whole bunch of pounds sitting around. And it's just kind of funny where a lot of people, you know, they've never bought an ounce before, you know, in a large part of the country. I'm sure at least a portion of our listeners has never bought more than an eighth, you know, or a quarter, you know. So it's just kind of funny. Every once in a while you forget that, you know, we're spoiled in certain ways.
Well, I know since I stopped taking my medication, I don't have less than a pound on hand, or at least try not to have less than that.
And do you find that the flower helps you more than the extracts, or?
Actually, I find that both of them help me about the same. It's just the duration of how long they work. So compared to taking a couple hits off your one hitter and pulling a dab, you're talking a 2 hour relief to a 4 to 6 hour relief. Or
Yeah,
if
that's
you're a heavy
awesome.
smoker, you take a couple hits every couple of hours and you feel great all day. That's how I
Yep.
try to stay.
But I feel like me and Marty do just dab all day long. You're lucky enough to have a job where you can do that.
I wish I did,
So
but
what
you
what
know,
go ahead. Sorry.
it just, you get so tired of people telling you what to do. There's ways around stuff, and I don't give a shit who you are. Excuse my language, but if you work hard, damn it, it's a ridiculous law, and everybody knows it, and there's nothing we can do about it, and it sucks.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially when you have certain state governments. I know we just talked about, you know, Governor Christie, who they have a mountain of evidence. He even has a family member that has a pretty severe seizure disorder, and you know the bastard still won't legalize. You know, and it's like, what the hell is wrong with you? Thankfully, they did pass some measure of medical, but they had to go around the governor in order to achieve that. And it's like, what the hell is wrong with you, dude? Like, and this also goes back to, you know, when I was ranting against CBD being Schedule One. They're only hurting, you know, elderly people and children and, you know, super severe, you know, severely sick people and, you know, just people that fucking need it.
See, and I can tell a difference between if I just take CBD oil for a day. I mean, you get a little bit of a cerebral high, but you're not getting all stoned out because it doesn't have the THC. But the medicinal use for it is, I mean, it's just as good as smoking a joint. I mean, for me personally, I get the benefit either way I go. I just prefer to smoke it because I like having both benefits.
Awesome. Do you have so was I guess what at what point when you were trying to recover did you decide to turn to cannabis, or were you kind of just using it the whole time and then just kind of use that or turn to it more heavily afterwards?
Well, where I'm located, you can get a lot of brick, nasty brown crap. And if you want the good stuff, you got to pay for it. And I got tired of paying for it and figured out that, hey, you know what? I feel a hell of a lot better when I have one of these than if I have 30 milligrams of these or 60 milligrams of these in a day. And like I said, the stuff that they put in that medication, we have no idea what the hell it is. I don't care if it's made in China or if it's made over here in the States. There is stuff in that stuff that shouldn't be in there, and people shouldn't be on it. And there are a lot better choices out there. And cannabis just happens to be the one that I think will shut the pharmaceutical companies down.
And we've seen that. In fact, the what was it? New Mexico. They applied for there was a big rehab group that was still is widely using cannabis oil to treat people coming off of opioid addiction, specifically because it won't solve your cravings and stuff, but it definitely makes them easier to deal with. You know, I had a friend of mine that was addicted to heroin when I was a teenager, in my early 20s, and we locked him in my extra bathroom, and there was a window on it. We could feed him through it, and he couldn't go anywhere. And we locked him in there. We gave him all the weed and all the food he wanted for 3 days, and after that, you know, he made it through at least the worst of it. You know, there was a little inflatable mattress in there and everything. It was a pretty big bathroom. It's not like a powder room or something. But you know, he had everything he needed. We were cooking him 4 really nice meals a day, and then we helped him get off of it because he was a good friend of ours. And you know, sometimes you have to do something like that to help people. But when you have something like cannabis or something else that you can use to calm it, I know I have a really good friend of mine that runs Get Ibogaine. Ibogaine is another great option out there for people that are trying to kick opioid addiction. It will chemically block the receptors from getting high, so you can't. You know, the person smokes it and they simply can't get high. Now they're going to be pretty sick when they smoke it. It'll make you vomit and make you nauseous, and it's not the most pleasant thing in the world. But it will fix the problem at the end of the 4 to 6 hours it takes to wear off. And I've had to save a couple of friends of mine's lives. And I also know that other people use kratom as well. To help treat their opioid addiction, which is now, you know, they're trying to make that illegal. I don't think they have yet, but it's kind of ridiculous that they're just attacking the stuff that's actually helping people.
See, and I've actually tried the kratom, but did not have very good luck with it. You got to choke that nasty shit down.
It's easier if you mix it with a little bit of orange juice and some iced tea. That'll maybe a lemon in there.
It's pretty nasty. I still have trouble.
I have a friend of mine has a little tree, and I don't know. We'll see if it lives. He picked it up a couple months ago, but yeah, it actually comes from a tree, and the potency changes based on the time of year that you pick the leaves. So,
Yeah.
It's kind of a strange plant.
It is definitely a strange plant.
So, but yeah, if you're trying to kick it, it can definitely help. Well, at least help some people. You know, not everyone though. I knew someone that got addicted to opioids after a motorcycle accident and been using them pretty heavy for 7 to 10 years.
Yeah.
And his liver was given out, and he ended up turning to kratom because it was an alternative. And he now just drinks 4 strong cups of kratom a day, and it helps him with his pain and weaned him off of the opioids. So
that's awesome. Any story hearing somebody coming off of that stuff is great, no matter, as long as it's healthier.
Yep, I know. I had my jaw busted up. In fact, that's kind of why I grow my goatee. And my jaw busted up real bad when I was a teenager. I was going to I was practicing to be a BMX rider, and I used to go to the skate park every day. And I went off the top of this ramp on the street park, and flew up, and this rollerblader slammed into me and landed chin first on the coping, busted out the whole big chunk of my front jaw. And they put it all back together. And I woke up in the middle of that surgery and damn near choked the doctor to death. So that was kind of fun. But they put me on codeine. Yeah, woke up in the middle of the surgery. My mom heard screaming. She goes back. I got my like death grip on the dentist, on the oral surgeon's throat, and they can't get my hands off of him. I was like 13 at the time, I think, if memory serves me right. And they took 4 people to pry my hands off of his neck, but he was like turning blue. It was awesome. As my mom told me all this, because I just woke up. I don't even remember any of it. But anyways, they gave me codeine, and I know coming off of the codeine for all the pain and stuff was the worst experience I've ever had with drugs, by far. It made my skin crawl, and I don't wish that on anybody. That's just the side effects from the withdrawal were insane.
And the anesthesia could have had a lot to do with that as well, because that
Yep.
stuff is just as bad as anything else as far as I'm concerned.
Yep. In fact, when I twisted my sacrum inside my pelvis back when I worked for the aquaponic source, I fell on the ice. And they wanted to get me immediately on opioids, and I was like, fuck no. Like, I'm not going through that again. So I was taking 1 to 2 2,000 milligram Reese's cups of 2,000 milligram THC and just, laying down and relaxing because, that's a heavy dose. Most people are taking about 100 milligrams, 50
Super
to 100.
sedating. That would have me asleep for about 10 hours probably.
Well,
I do about
I
5
could
to
sleep for,
function.
yeah. So at one point I was taking 4 a day when I was going through physical therapy. So,
Wow.
but it gets you through the pain, and you're still relatively functional once you get kind of used to it.
See, and what pain's really there, you can still kind of feel it, but you
Yeah.
don't care.
Yep. Or you won't overdo
like-
it. A little bit of pain's good. You want to know if you're going to hyperextend it and make it worse, or if it's inflamed, you don't want to make it worse. So that's why a little bit of pain is okay. You don't want to totally numb yourself out. You might do something else by accident to yourself and not even realize it. I've done it.
Exactly. Absolutely.
Isn't it funny though how when we were younger, we all we go to the doctor and they would give us Tylenol with codeine, and we'd get pissed off. And now we're talking about how we never want to do anything stronger than Tylenol with codeine again because that shit ruins your life.
No, I don't even do codeine. Fuck codeine. Like I don't even with that. I'll just do it has to be pretty severe pain for me to train to something other than cannabis, and I've had pretty severe back pain, and if I can treat that with cannabis, it can't be too much more that you can't treat,
Well,
at least pain-wise.
Like I said, I have those 2 6-inch rods, 6 screws in my back. One of the screws is actually broken in my back.
Yikes.
Another screw is 2 inches long, and it's bent in the bone somehow. So whenever that stuff started rattling around and I went in and had the x-rays done, they couldn't believe that I was still standing, and they wanted to go in through the front of my stomach and brace the front of my spine. And I was like, you guys are no way. Hell no. I will deal with it. And I've dealt with it for 8 years. And the medications it got me to a point that whenever you have a $35,000 deductible for your insurance, I'm sorry, that's ridiculous. When 5 years ago, people had a $2,000 deductible for their insurance.
Yeah, how are people supposed to come up with as much as a car or a down payment on a house just for medication?
Hell, that's some people's salary.
Yeah. Shit, that was my salary for many years when I was younger.
Yeah.
Well, and you're fortunate to be able to have that well of a salary when you were younger, because there's people in the state I'm in now that, hell, they're lucky to make that.
Yep. That's one thing we can all say we're very blessed about the cannabis industry, is it does help us provide for ourselves and others quite a bit.
For sure. That's for sure.
And that's my main goal, is to help anybody I can with this. Vets, people that have had injuries, just anything that will help someone get off of the pharmaceuticals, because there are so many more options. I mean, you don't even have to get high. The CBD oil works just as well.
Have you talked to any other veterans? I don't know. We've had some other veterans on the show before, talking to them about PTSD and cannabis and some of the other stuff. Have you had any experiences like that?
That's a part of my life I actually have blocked out, that I actually probably should talk to people about, but I haven't. I've kind of blocked that part of my life out.
Sure.
and act like it never happened, because it's just,
It's easier.
it is what it is.
Sure.
But, and I'm in a location right now to where I don't really, I mean, I stay to myself.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I do my job, I come home, I provide for my family, I don't bother anybody, I don't do anything wrong as far as I'm concerned, and that's what matters.
Yep.
Yeah,
And
and that's great. You know, like however you need to put one foot in front of the other. You know, like I think so many of us are just concerned about the guys that don't figure out a way to do that. And so just knowing that you're able to do what you're doing, without really any information about your background or any of that, which is obviously your own personal stuff. And but whatever you're doing, as long as it's working and you can communicate that to people out there that may be curious about it, or haven't tried it, or having a tough time, maybe they're not able to block it out as well as you are. And I've seen it in members of my own family haunt them for years and years and years. So, if you are able to do that, then I think that's great. And just hopefully if there are people out that are listening to this or listen to it in the future, they know that it's at least possible, and give it a shot and see if it works for them.
Absolutely, 100%. And that's why I'm kind of wanting to come out of the closet about it and start talking about it, because they deserve the help that they're not getting. The veterans. Right,
for sure. And I think it's always, we've talked about this on the show when we've had other veterans. I think it's always good for veterans to hear from other veterans that have been successful, because it carries a stigma for a lot of people, especially a lot of people in the military or who have either still in or have been in the past. It definitely comes with a certain stigma around it for the majority of their lives, and getting over that. When information comes from other veterans, it usually carries more weight for them, and it should. I think that's great. I mean, it's people that know more about your experience. So we appreciate you stepping out of the closet as much as you want to, in terms of, again, just I think knowing that it helps you put one foot in front of the other and block it out or do whatever you need to do, I think is great information. So thanks again for being here and talking about it as much as you're willing to.
Well, and the person I really have to thank for me even talking about it is Roger, because we've had discussions, and he made so much sense to me, and it's my obligation to step up and help who I can. I mean, there's too many pissed off people in this world, and I mean, it's very sad that everybody cannot wake up every day with a smile on their face, regardless of how pissed off you want to be. Life is too damn short to be mad. I've always went off of a motto of a movie from the 80s called Better Off Dead. Sometimes you just gotta say, what the fuck?
Yeah. Well, it is good. David's helping out. We just said we talked about this before show, but we just made David. I'm sorry, I just called him his name. He's not.
That's fine.
We just made him a moderator, volunteer. So it's the first step of being a total moderator at ILG, ILoveGrowingMarijuana.com, and he deserves it. He's been doing a lot of help there, and he's always supportive of everybody. And one of the most probably most noticed, one of the top, there's 15 or 20 people that are really noticed there that help a lot, and he's been stepping up. So we went ahead and put the moderator tag on him this past day, and he's doing the show. I said, yeah, you're going to do the show tomorrow, maybe. And so he was excited about that. And I'm glad that that Robert and them built such a great community for us to be in and be happy to be there. I don't go to any other forums anymore unless somebody specifically asks me about something, but I don't like them. I like the fact that we've got a place where we can help people without anybody name calling or nobody's called stupid on my forum. I'll put my foot up their butt, and get rid of them quick. And I've had some people don't like at, oh, well, we're adults. Yeah, so act like adults, you know, and then to get people, you know, that's what takes me off, you know, well, you know, like, well, why can't we say that? Because I don't let people cuss a lot, you know. I mean, there's some cussing, but I mean, when you get nasty, there's certain words we don't use, right? And I don't allow that there because we have women. We have older women, ladies. We have ladies there doing, you know, they don't want to read that stuff. They don't want to hear it and see those words or see people act. So I've had so many compliments from the older clientele that we've got that they love. It's a no bullshit forum that's friendly. There's no, if there's any bullshit, it's cut. We cut it off right away, and we make our warnings, or we get rid of the member if we have to. We never want to get rid of a member. I'll bet you we've banned less people at ilovegrowingmarijuana.com in the last 3 years than we did at cannabis.com in 3 months when I was moderator there. Because you were banned, you almost banned somebody twice a week, 2 or 3, 4 times a week sometimes, you know.
Yeah, we get that complaint in our Facebook group from time to time. We're be a little ban happy. We're not we're not shy about it. You know, we just feel like, you know, there's plenty of elitist groups out there and elitist forums out there. If you want to go talk trash and post pictures of plants you probably didn't grow, or, you know, whatever negativity you want to bring to it, there's plenty of forums that will allow you to do that. Plenty of groups on Facebook that will allow you to do that. And we just decided that wasn't going to be ours. So
not our playpen.
Yeah,
I feel like we're trying to provide a learning environment for people that need to learn how to do it right, because it's not cheap to do it. It's not, if you're going to do it right, even if you do it the cheapest way possible, it's still not cheap for somebody that's poor. On Medicare or something like that. I can tell you, I'm on Medicare, and it sucks not being able to drive and being stuck with just a little bit of money every month. I have to hustle for everything I got, and this working for Robert Bergman's turned into a real good thing for me. Hell, it's led me to you guys, you know, through Aquaponic Dumme, you know, but by him being such a good friend. And I've been enjoying it, and it makes I'm a lot better teacher since I started being on this show, because I just see what all you guys talk about, and I'm trying to be, well, you always try to be, you know, well, when you're an administrator, it's not always easy to be friendly, like you're saying in your Facebook group. Sometimes you got to kick them to the curb. But again, it's because for all you out there, we're trying to provide a learning environment. This it's not a playground. It's not a high school. It's a learning environment where people take it very serious what we're doing, and what they need are the needs of the people, and we want to help them. So, you know, people like Hogmaster and the rest of you is what makes my world go round. Have a guy come on the forum like that and help out and be friendly. And hell, I get kind of brain goofy sometimes, but he's won twice in the Bud of the Month contest. You know, not an easy feat to do, you know, but we have you buy genetics from us, then you're allowed to enter your you picture your genetics when it's in the finishing stages, and we let the members vote, and you win a free 5-pack of the Amsterdam genetics from Amsterdam, you know, and they are good genetics, you know, but he's won twice. He's won twice. So, yeah, we don't feel sorry for him anymore. He knows how to grow. And people look up to him for that too. So he's a perfect choice for a new moderator, because people want to hear what he's got to say, and the veteran side of it too, with the pain, and that's nice to have that. And like I said, we're working on that network. We're going to have a channel for veterans to come for support, whether it be for life or for, you know, mental, physical, you know, support, or how to grow cannabis amongst veterans, you know. And maybe that'd be a little bit more, I might be a little more open to do that, allow a little more contact, like personal contact information and stuff in that kind of case, because they need to be allowed to do that. I think we don't need to make them be so private. I see you, Marty, you want to say something. Go ahead, buddy.
Oh, no, I was chatting with somebody.
And it is kind of crazy, like how certain aquaponics groups and forums and certain cannabis groups too can get viciously toxic over the dumbest shit, like psychotically stupid shit. And it's a handful of people in the AP world and a handful of people in the cannabis world that you see over and over again, just with nothing to do but talk about their own bullshit.
Right.
And
there's a time and a place for that.
Yeah, the nice thing about the forum,
some of them just need to, you know,
so nice.
Yep.
Say what? What'd you say, Hogmaster? Can you turn up, by the way? on your phone? Did you? I think you said you're on your phone now. I was running
Yeah,
around.
I think it just has to. I think we just have to deal. Unfortunate.
Okay.
There, is that any better?
A little bit.
That's a little better. Yeah. Thank you. I just want to hear you because what you got to say is important and you know, good stuff. So.
No, just like Roger was saying, ILG forum. It's been wonderful. I mean, it's helped me out so much because I didn't start growing indoors till August this last year. And I mean, it's a completely different ball game than growing outside, especially when you're using LEDs and hell, I didn't know anything. I just started buying stuff and ended up running into the forum right about the same time all my stuff was showing up, and ordered some genetics, and they've worked very well for me.
Awesome. Is there any a particular method that you like or that you're using?
On probably one of my best grows ever, and I'm using Pro Mix and Flower Power nutrients. That's it. And the growth I've gotten is double from what I was using before when I was using Fox Farm.
Yep.
Yeah, Fox Farm's good for. Fox Farm's okay for beginners, and if I'm feeling super lazy, I'll even mix like Fox Farm and Pro Mix together
Yeah.
for a dual root zone mix. If I don't have time to go do it right and make up my normal mix, you know, or if I'm just swamped that, you know, I don't want to have time. It's kind of my, you know, easy go-to. That or Coco Loco plus a little bit of Pro Mix plus a little bit of the rainforest or ocean floor is really good.
Yeah, we have a lot of members that use Pro Mix and Ocean Forest a lot. You know, that happens. I just started getting such good vegetation in my Pro Mix a year and a half or two ago. I was using it in my greenhouse operation a little bit too. And I said, hell, I was getting such good growth. I said, I'm going to try to do a whole grow in it. Now I got like 10 guys doing it. We're doing nothing but right now we're experimenting with all the Robert's new nutrient lines, the Flower Power, and we got an organic amendment, soil amendment, and we've got the powdered water soluble, which is what we're using, that Hogmaster and I are using. And I'm growing, I'm getting excellent killer results, super healthy plants, a very nice yield per plant. 5-6 ounces per plant. We're doing basically nothing but watering it with Flower Power, you know, and then with water in between. I always water with nutrients, and then I go with pH to water in between all the time, and it seems to work. It's a great balance for me.
And it's nice because you only have to use the nutrients once a week.
Or, well, you might use them twice a week because it depends when they're getting flower. You're feeding them every 2 days, no more than every 2 days, second day. So you'd go 6th day, you'd be back on nutrients. But it's very affordable, and I was blown away because I'm not easily impressed. And I've tried a whole lot of different nutrients. I started out with 3-part, and I actually bought the AN 3-part, but then found out that was just a copy of GH 3-part. So I then saved a couple of bucks by buying GH 3-part, and I did that for 2 or 3 years, and I got out of that. I'd always used Botanicare a little bit, and I did a lot of experimenting with that. And then I had a couple other people send me some stuff, and a local hydro store had their own mixes, and I tried that. Not to mention, like I've mentioned on the show before, I make my own nutrient solution for my greenhouse reservoir, 300 gallons at a time. And I mix it out of 50-pound bags or pound bags of chelates or whatever it is, you know. And so I got a kind of clue about it. And when I put this stuff into, I just saw the plant going nuts. And I literally got some pictures I wish I could show you. I went over to the grow and took some pictures yesterday, and they were kind of like just laying around, not doing much. I was kind of waiting for them to jump before I gave them. Well, I used the start part of the, I use start. There's 4 parts. There's start, grow, bloom, and then there's a booster that you only use 2 weeks, you know, like a couple weeks before finish, like any other booster. So, and it's very little that you use. So I go over there, and I decided, heck, I'm going to put the start. So the start was it's half a teaspoon is all you use, a half a teaspoon for a powder for a gallon. and I watered those plants, and I swear to God, the next 6 hours they grew. 3 times I went in there and they had grown. I mean, I even took pictures so you can see that they were this tall. Well, I don't have my camera tonight, so that doesn't matter when I hold my fingers up. But you know, you could literally see they'd grown another half inch. We're talking in a few hours after adding this stuff. And that's not saying that wouldn't happen with another nutrient line. I'm just really surprised. And since I work with the company, we're able to do this experimentation and share it with our members, and the members are getting the same kind of results and freaking out that we had one guy do an organic grow where he always uses bat guano and worm castings like that in like a pro mix, and he makes his own soil that way. And he did a side-by-side with using the new BioLine, the Flower Power BioLine organic soil amendment. And you add only like a tablespoon or 2 a week, and we kind of water it in after. There's an amendment for the soil that you amend the soil and get it ready, just like on a farm. And then you just add some, you know, a little bit at a, you know, whatever. I didn't use that yet, but he tells me use a tablespoon to 2 tablespoons a week and water it in, and it at least grew better, if not a little bit. It didn't really blow away his other grow method, but it held its own. It didn't get beat. Whereas my experiment against Botanicare and against Fox Farm, Flower Power kicked its butt, hands down. And I'm with you, Steve. Yeah, Fox Farm's great if for somebody wants to start off growing. I usually recommend people to use it if they are the ocean forest guy, because we know ocean forest is great stuff to start with, but after a month or so, it's depleted most of the minerals. You got to replenish those minerals. So why not just use Fox Farm that's made for Fox Farm? That's like, I play a Fender guitar. When I play my Fender, I play it through my Fender amp. When I want to rock, I play my Paul Reed Smith through my Orange or my Marshall. You know, it's just a different thing. But I love the stuff, and I'm proud. I'm really proud, and I'm honored to be in my position too, and to have people like Hogmaster here and Aquaponic Dumme and them come work with me and support the place, and everybody, even like Brain Grow, come and joined. You know, I'm so happy to see that people will come and see. Then they see the community and go, "Wow, this is pretty decent community for a cannabis farm." You know, and like tonight, thank you very much for saying that. I'm going to let somebody else speak now, but thank you very much for saying that a while ago, how, yeah, just have readers go over there to the aquaponics section. It'll make it easier for you guys to, you know, go over there and help them out, and it'll make our forum look better, and it's stronger with every one of any of you guys that I can get to help one time here and there, and it makes us a better looking and gives us a lot more clout in the knowledge, you know, how much knowledge we provide in that one little community, you know, and it's no bullshit either. We got all the experts now. I think we got everything. And so we're working on the LED stuff. We got some people that think they're LED experts, but I evidently didn't watch Spectrum King or Black Dog Show.
Yeah. Holy shit, well, that was good.
But that didn't just help me. You know, their shows just didn't help LED growers. Just the conversation about the light, the blue light, the white light, because I've been preaching the metal halide thing. Because I still believe in, you know, you start out with metal halide. Well, I like the T5s. I fell in love with them when I finally bought them. But, you know, I believe in the metal halide. I'm not such a fan of going all the way through, but I can say this. I wouldn't be against having my metal halide in a high pressure sodium, like a 400 metal halide I might use in veg, and then turn on a 600 high pressure sodium right next to it in flower and have them both on. And that, I think you get really good results with that full spectrum of HID. Because I'm still you know, it took me forever to get digital. I used to build my own magnetic ballast, you know, 1,000 watts. I'd salvage 1,000 watt ballast off of eBay for $50. And I even bought, you know, Better Grow Hydro out there in California, don't you? Better Grow Hydro. I we lost Marty, I think.
Yeah, Marty had a deal with, he's got
babies.
Baby Agro.
All right, Marty. Goodbye, Marty.
But yeah, make sure you guys visit Marty's channel at AP Beds.
So, but it's really nice of y'all. You know, so I'm very proud to be a part of this panel. Sometimes I don't. I'll be honest. Sometimes you don't always feel like being locked down to doing something. You know, I think we're all free spirits for sure. And but even when I don't want to necessarily go, yeah, okay, then I sit down and do the podcast and I feel great the whole way, and I feel great afterwards. And I go, damn, I'm glad I didn't miss that, because that guy was great. I learned a bunch of stuff tonight. And anytime you teach an
I've
old
learned
dog a
so
new trick,
much.
you're doing good. Huh?
The last several weeks that I've been watching the Monday night show and the Thursday night show, I even went back to the very first show, and within the first 45 minutes, there is so much information that you got covered.
Yeah.
That is vital.
You pretty much get an excellent summary of what the dual root zone and how the high aquaponic methods of AP and meds and potent ponics are by listening to the first half hour, 45 minutes of episode number 1. If you've never done it, before you listen to anything else about cannabis, and if you're interested in aquaponics or just really learning more about the science and the measurement of what you're putting in your plant, just start with episode 1, because the first 15 minutes, it basically explained the dual root zone, and it couldn't get any better explanation. It was right from the beginning, like you should have. Because blown away, you actually went right into what you were doing, and like, boom, I was like, wow, so we've come a long way. Huh? It's great episode number 1, guys.
Yeah, you guys have many great episodes, like the LED show last week. That incredible. The Mammoth P show, another one. Just the information is incredible.
Yeah,
and I appreciate it.
Thank you.
That's a lot your hard work getting to know these people, being somebody you actually knew. We see now some of you out there are new, or so I don't know if you know, but I don't even really know that much, but we've talked, and I've talked with Dumme and all, but Steve is kind of known out there, and it's amazing. People come on this show that don't go on other shows. This is a show where you get owners of companies, and it's like, wow. I mean, some of them aren't a whole lot different than us, but they're already made it. They're already in the hydro stores. They're already in all the online stores. They're being sold. There's a name. Their known name. In fact, you'll love this, Steve. Hogmaster here. He was already using Mammoth P before the show.
All right.
See, so and then that helps me to teach too, because I don't have time or the money to buy everything out there. Now, some of these guys promised to get me samples, and I haven't gotten around to getting that done yet. And I will be glad to get it and use it just like you guys did. But the fact that you used it and still use it, or like some of these products, that goes a long way to you young people out here. If this guy likes it, then it's probably pretty good for your plant. Because him and this whole panel, Brain Grow, and all of them are pretty picky. This aquaponics, you get a lot more picky, and you learn a lot more about breaking down what you're putting in and what creates what, as far as minerals and the changes of chemistry in the reservoir. It's a really cool science, and it's actually surprising that it's really so much more detailed that you don't have to take everything from it, but there's a lot of things you can take from it. And it applies to hydroponics big time. And it'll let you understand hydroponics a lot better just by listening to people talk about the aquaponics, because of the extra steps they go through to keep their fish alive, because that's what the whole thing's about. Keep the fishies alive. Don't Cameron, shut up.
Yeah, one other, just to touch on this, one other aspect about aquaponics that you're pretty much forced to learn about microbes whenever you start aquaponics. So that's another plus side to it. You really start learning about the microbes you have to establish when you start cycling a system, and then once you move along to dual root zone, then that kind of piques you to start learning about the soil microbes that are present as well. So that's another thing I really enjoyed about it.
Not only that, I mean, I feel like in aquaponics we cover much more, your mineral ranges rather than total ppm or total EC or stuff where it doesn't really give you that much data about what's going on. Yeah, I know that there's this much minerals in there, but it doesn't tell me anything about the balance of it, and that's what's important. And that's, I feel like you end up learning a lot more about how plants, microbes, the soil web, and everything works out with aquaponics, from an educational standpoint, tremendously. I wanted to stop for a second and just say thanks again for Hogmaster for coming on the show. We'll definitely, it was great to hear all about that. I wanted to touch on a quick question we had from chat. He asks, HC Music and 420 Adventures asks, is aquaponics overall an energy saver compared to conventional growing? So yeah, aquaponics saves energy compared to conventional growing in a few different ways. So one, we use about 5 to 10%, depending on the methodology that you're using, of water compared to a normal aquaponics or a normal soil or hydroponics. And hydroponic, you have to dump your reservoirs regularly, and soil, you're just pouring water down the ground. So you end up using significantly more water because of those two factors. We also use 35% of roughly 35 plus minus percent of the nutrients compared to normal, in terms of minerals per weight, gram weight for supplementation, because the bulk of our supplementation comes from our fish waste. And then we also can through geothermal and solar heating of the thermal mass, i.e. the water mass in an aquaponic system, or especially when you get to large greenhouses, you can take that and then convert it, use that as a heat battery, and use that extra water volume in order to much more easily maintain and stabilize the temperature of the greenhouses, as well as the addition of that extra humidity makes it much easier to dial in and nail that perfect VPD, which we've talked about in both the Black Dog and the Spectrum King episodes. Both of them had incredible breakdowns of that, and different breakdowns. It covered different aspects of it. I highly recommend watching both of those episodes if you haven't already. But in an aquaponics setup, you have because of that constantly slightly higher humidity, as long as you're maintaining your silica so that fungal outbreaks are an issue, you will get maximum growth, like psychotically fast growth with aquaponics, especially in veg, faster than you'll get with any other method. So I hope that answers the question. He had one other question I was trying to find. So if anyone else has any questions, always feel free to ask questions in chat. We might not get to them right away, but we will get to them, at some point during the episode.
Well, I know me personally, using microbes in my soil grows, and now in the Pro Mix, you can tell a huge difference in the root structure with using the microbes.
Oh yeah. That, and especially things like lactobacillus ferments. I know we've talked about different labs, Marty especially, and then labs, you got things like moringa or spirulina, or you can even add dandelion cuttings or comfrey. All of those are great things to break down and have different components that will boost your plant growth, when combined with things like lactobacillus. And it's really cool to even using lactobacillus, something like lactobacillus, to treat root rot, for example. Lactobacillus loves to feed and boost the growth of trichoderma. Trichoderma will actively hunt down and eat and destroy root rot. It's one of the things they enjoy eating as far as a microbe. They're basically a predatory one. Now, if you get the wrong type, they can wipe out all of your microbes in your soil, or wipe out some of the beneficial ones if you go nuts with it. But a little bit of it's good because it'll basically act like a predator and take down the bad stuff. So you can use things like that in hyperdosing, dosing it much stronger than you normally would in order to wipe out something like root rot or something else.
Yeah, I actually like to dilute it into my 1 gallon spray pump and just apply it directly to the grow beds. Just saturate the whole grow bed with lactobacillus serum solution, and it works excellently. You can always see a difference, by the next day.
That's cool.
Well, that's good. That's neat how you would need that you can find things around the house, like dandelions and stuff like that, because I actually use aloe vera plant for my clones.
That's another great one. Yep.
And I just bring the plant in the wintertime, bring it back out in the summertime, and I don't have to buy anything, and it works great.
For those of you who don't have any clue why or how you could use aloe vera, that means the plant's high in potassium, basically.
Yep. Sorry, Marty was texting me was trying to come back on the show, and I was trying to make sure, see if you wanted. Sorry, repeat what you just said.
Me?
Yeah.
I just said that that the reason aloe vera, because people are going, oh, aloe vera. Well, to explain that, because it's high in potassium, and you need.
Well, it also has there's a hormone in it that also helps a little bit too. Like I don't know if you guys are familiar with you ever take willow cuttings? You can take fresh willow cuttings and you can steep them in water and make a cloning gel that way. My grandmother used to do that to clone her
Yeah, I've always
peppers.
wanted to try that method since I've heard about it.
Yep. But I think I've posted that article 2 or 3 times in the Aquaponic Cannabis group
That's
if
pretty
you
neat. That's
dig
pretty neat.
far enough.
That's the kind of stuff I love. The little things you can do organically to make.
Throw a willow tree in your backyard.
Yeah, I used to have one that died.
I got one right down the street. I got to try that.
I love them. My grandparents had a weeping willow tree, and I always loved them. And now we had one when we moved here, but it died a few years later and left a big hole in the yard.
Yeah, my grandma used to have one, and I used to have to break switches off of it so she could whip my ass with them. Not to go off subject or anything, but yeah, that's the only bad memory I have about it. Bad memory about the whipping willow.
So Marty's coming back?
He's trying. He said he might be able to come back here in a few.
Oh, cool. So did we address all the questions in chat? Did you find that other one? Was there another one you were looking, or did you find it? I'm doing that.
No, we had one. Another question is cannabis a cleaner product, or aquaponic cannabis cleaner? And yeah, I mean, it has a much smoother flavor, and because you're using much fewer nutrients, they're all coming directly from the fish or the microbes immediately rather than it coming from a mineral salt. You get a much better flavor and much smoother. How well do amino acids work? I've tested a few different amino acid products in aquaponics. I haven't had any of them kill the fish. A few of them did spike the nitrogen pretty high, to the point where it was concerning. It's something that I definitely want to play with more. I did a lot of work with amino acids when I worked with planted aquariums. And I've tested a handful of products with cannabis. Nothing to where I saw anything that was like, holy shit, I got to use this every time. But definitely something that I think could use quite a bit of further research. And hopefully once we get this new project that I can't tell you guys about quite yet off the ground, yeah, in 30 to 60 days, I'll be able to tell you guys all about this new amazing, crazy thing that's happening that I'm not allowed to tell you guys about at the moment. But yes, hopefully that research will come out soon from someone. Maybe I know them.
Well, yeah, I know we've had amino acids mentioned a couple of times in the past year or so by members, and I did watch some articles, and I think Dumme was doing some research with that too, if I'm not sure. Think he already started practicing that. Any of you guys know for sure? Was he?
What's that?
Aquaponic Dumme getting into the amino acids? Because that has been something. Some people have some pretty good reasoning science behind it that, it sounds good anyway. Like you said, I haven't had time to check it out myself either, really, enough to say one way or the other, but I was saying I thought Aquaponic Dumme had done something. Do you know anything, Braingro, about that?
I haven't actually seen any posts from Dumme in a while. I always look forward to the new stuff he's working on because it's always so intricate and detailed. He doesn't, he doesn't really talk in his videos, but he usually puts up text describing what he's working on and whatnot. But as far as, excuse me, as far as amino acids go, you're generally talking about proteins, and so whenever that breaks down, that's mostly going to be adding to the nitrogen value that's already there that you really don't have to worry about in aquaponics. So
yeah, okay, yeah, that's the bottom line.
So one guy brings up a good point. So he says they're good chelators. Amino acids are good chelators, and yeah, I've heard probably 2 or 3 different people talk about the concept of trying to come up with an amino acid chelated XYZ iron or calcium or whatever. But I haven't seen anyone that is managed to come up with like a product that was, you know, shelf stable for any length of time. I think there is a company out there that I recall, Biomin, I think is it. Have you guys ever heard of that? I don't even know if they're registered in the U.S. I think they're registered in the EU, but I could be wrong. But that's the only one I think I've ever heard of. You guys heard any of that?
And you're talking about including amino acids into the
So
chelate?
using amino acids to chelate minerals.
Yeah, I don't know yet. I haven't looked at it in a while. I pretty much was set with mine. I believe mine are fatty acids. I'm not sure.
Was there not a episode where we were really talking about amino acids? Maybe with the Mammoth P episode, I could have sworn we went into detail where he was
he did
really breaking down the difference between enzymes and amino acids and stuff like that.
Yep.
All right, so we need to
I
go
would definitely reference people back to that episode because that guy really brought the knowledge, you know.
Oh, he was great, man. That was, I tell you, like I said, it's great to be on it, you know, and have a guy like that answering your questions, you know, and then,
Yep.
you know, you got so many people. We each have people that follow us in different areas, and that kind of information, they start seeing that happen, and you can really, you move forward. I tell you what, I was impressed. I can't wait to get my samples. Honestly, I cannot wait, because especially since I'm in my pro mix phase, you know. I'm not doing anything hydroponic.
The Mammoth P is worth just buying. I'll tell you that right now. It's the best product. The Mammoth P has got to be one of the best products I've seen hit the market in the last 5 years for cannabis growing. Just in terms of the fact that it's completely aquaponic safe, and the fact that it just it makes such a night day difference in your node spacing, especially.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to look at too. That was the part of it I really liked, the idea, because yeah, you like that. That's for sure. And you can get tight nodal spacing all the way up the plant. You know, you'd be doing, yeah, it'd be nice. We got a lot of scroggers would love that kind of thing, you know.
Oh yeah. So one guy asked if you can use shrimp like they do for rice in parts of Asia. Shrimp would be kind of hard. I do know that what was it, Alien has done cannabis with heavy shrimp loads, and he swears that the mineral base from their waste is actually more ideal, which that actually is true. The mineral waste is going to be higher in calcium, higher in magnesium, higher in phosphorus, than the fish waste will be. So you know, as a pure waste product, it is superior to the fish waste, just in terms of mineral composition, or at least in certain ways. But you know, the problem with that is especially if you're not running a dual root zone system, but especially if you are, if you overdose and you dump into your system, the shrimp die from so much easier than the fish do if you accidentally overdose the nutrient. So if you screw up at all, you're pretty much going to nuke them. So that is the one downside. Background's falling. So I'll fix it.
So would you say that's mostly general for only shrimp, or would you say that kind of works across the board for crustaceans, or do different crustaceans maybe have different benefits over other crustaceans?
I would say that applies to all invertebrates, mostly because the invertebrates are going to be the it just has to do with their gill structure and how they uptake minerals. The other thing that I would say is also, I guess, would be applicable to that would be catfish. Catfish, because they're scaleless, absorb things much faster than a fish with scales does. So whenever you're doing anything with catfish, again, potassium is going to affect them quicker. If you overdose it, much above 150, 160, you're going to see it in the catfish before you see it in your tilapia.
So there's a lesson to be learned. You want scaly fish. If you're going to do fish, you pretty much want to use scaly fish.
Well, and that's not entirely true. I mean, you can absolutely do it with catfish or with eels, and there's a lot of people that do it out there. In fact, where did I see? There was a lady who's doing glass eels somewhere, and I thought that was super cool. But it's just a matter of making sure that you're adjusting, and this is why I would in general discourage people from trying to do prawn with or even crayfish with cannabis, just because your margin of error is extremely small. So if you do screw up at all, you're going to pay for it, within an hour or two.
Wow. Okay, so even though we've talked a lot lately about crawfish, and even one of our guests liked crawfish, you're on a thin line. They're a very low tolerance to any change.
I'm
Yeah,
hoping
well,
to
like I
try out a
said, it's
crawfish system
possible.
sometime soon.
It's possible. You just have to make sure that you're
You don't
much
screw
more
up.
careful of. Yeah, I mean, I would definitely not the beginner species. How about that?
Okay, there you go. All right. Once you have your system dialed in, you might be able to do
Yeah,
something like
I mean, your
crawfish.
easiest ones are going to be koi, carp, buffalo, goldfish. Anything in the carp family really are going to be the easy peasy. You can do ones with like mollies and swordtails and guppies, and just have 1,000 of them or whatever. You can order them pretty cheap if you buy them in that kind of bulk, even from your local pet store. So, or that's another thing that I tell people all the time: partner up with your local pet store. If there's a freshwater fish that'll happily grow and breed or grow out in a system that you're having, and they want that, or it's high demand for that particular pet store, grow it for them. Turn a profit on that. It's going to get you more money than the tilapia will.
And it's not the same kind of situation as if you were trying to sell it for somebody to eat. There's less regulation in there.
Yep. Absolutely. Yeah. In fact, I tell this to cannabis growers all the time when they're contacting me about business stuff, and they're saying, "Hey, what fish should we use if we're thinking about doing an aquaponic cannabis company?" And I tell them all the time, start with koi for the first year. Go get a bunch of butterfly koi and grow them out, because you can't. They're damn near bulletproof. They'll tolerate all the different species, or all the different nutrient and water conditions you can throw at them, short of really screwing up. And they're very forgiving. And then if they're butterfly koi or even just semi-fancy koi, they're gonna have a much higher dollar increase rate for that 1 year worth of food that you put in them than the tilapia would. It's selling at $4 to $8 a pound. I can sell a butterfly koi that I grow out for a year for $60 to $100, maybe $120. And you're just going to get such a better return. At least for your short flip. Plus, the other reason is, aside from that factor, is that licensing is so difficult as it is already with cannabis when you're doing it legally. I can't tell you how many times I wanted to take a hammer to my own skull because of some change in permitting laws or whatever else. I know that they've totally basically damn near, they haven't totally stopped, but they've definitely slowed down the progress of one of my projects I'm working on now to about 5% of the speed that it was progressing at about 3 weeks ago, because of a recent change in regulations in the state, or where it's at. So it's totally out of control, and they gotta bring, for the investors' sake and everyone else's sake, they gotta bring some level of normalcy to this. But with all the regulations you already have to deal with, if you're trying to do the tilapia and you're going to sell fillets and stuff, you need to get a meat packing license, a meat processing license, both of which require like regular food grade inspections and all this other stuff. Or you can just get a pet trade license for $150 in most, or less in most states, and just sell fish as pets. It's cheaper and less bullshit, and less regulations and less inspections and blah 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 blah.
So for those of you that are thinking, yeah, but I wanted to eat the fish, sell the koi for $80 and go to a fine restaurant and eat some fish.
Yep. That's pretty much my advice. And that, or the other one that I would recommend that are pretty hard. Tilapia are pretty good. Perch are also pretty hard. Sometimes in the beginning they can be a little bit to adjust to the system, but I've run them on pretty high nutrient systems pretty successfully. They also love that 68-degree temperature that is perfect for the oxygen level for your cannabis, and temperature range for the fish, 66 to 68. So 68 being kind of the ideal split between the plants and the fish and the microbes. So, if you're thinking about what temperature you should set your heaters to, set them to 68. Okay, we'll have a awesome. Okay, sorry, the Aquaponic Dumme was just about to say something, but it looks like he's gonna join us next week and do it instead. So.
Yeah, he's back. Gravy's back. Oh, good. Maybe I'll get a call.
Cool.
Yeah.
What was I saying right before that? Something about koi and
Coy, you were
68-degree water
regulation.
temperature.
Oh, 68-degree water temperature. That's going to be your best, but perch are going to grow at maximum speed at that 68-degree temperature, whereas koi or tilapia are going to be a little bit slower then in terms of growth speed. So, if you're looking for something that's going to split the difference and be a great edible fish, yellow perch are definitely a good one. MC Music asks, where do we get our water? I actually use well water or tap water in most places. We just use a filter after the fact to remove any kind of heavy metals into the system. I don't want to totally remove all the minerals in the system, but I want to make sure there's no metals. And using something like a cold sterile filter or a couple of the other types of filters that are out there. I don't really like RO. I think it overstrips the water, and you have to remineralize it in order to stabilize it, unless you're trying to lower your pH. But in general,
in aquaponics.
It's for aquaponics, yes.
For hydro, it's great, but because you want to know exactly what you're putting in.
Yeah, for hydro, RO is the way to go. Yeah.
You want minerals in the water the water you use for aquaponics. That's what I'm getting from.
Yep. You want the carbonates, and then you want some of the trace minerals that are found in your tap water. Like you want the copper that you're getting through your piping, because your plants need 0.3% 0.3 ppm copper in order to do their properly process the rest of the minerals they uptake. So, a tiny amount like that will come in through your tap water, and that's great. Otherwise, you'd have to dose it. And if you overdose that, you're going to kill your fish instantly.
And then
I like to use rainwater myself, and then I mostly rely on Korean natural farming stuff that I make on my own to dose pretty much anything I need. I don't know if plants take up copper, or if there's any certain plants that Steve would recommend that chelate copper and take that up. But
so, as far as copper goes, I don't know any off the top of my head, but there are certain plants that you can use to uptake, like avocados or cabbages, or a couple of other plants that love to uptake salt, sodium. They'll happily pull sodium from your system. And then someone asked about fluoride in chat. What the hell broccoli? What's the broccoli family called? Broccoli, kale. Begins with a B. Brochius. That broccoli family. I can't think of the name. I'm trying to remember the genus. And I can't remember it at the top of my head. I done a dab, and I've been driving all day, so I'm a little bit brain dead.
You guys, Steve was doing his show tonight because he loves all y'all in this show so much, and he drove all day moving today. He drove from his old home in Southern California to his new home in Northern California, and he's doing the show. Here we go. All right. Thank you, Steve.
Thanks. Yeah, I literally pulled into the driveway and then grabbed my laptop and ran to the modem and was like, "What's the password?" I had actually have Roger help me put the show together today, but yeah. So anything in the brachia. Thank you. Brassica. Any brassicas will happily pull up fluoride, and then when they pull up the fluoride, they break down the fluoride into 3 other compounds, but they're way better for you after it's been broken down. It doesn't accumulate fluoride; it breaks it down. So it will pull it out of the water. And
the cabbage family.
Brassicas. So broccoli, mustard greens, kale, any of those. Collard greens, cauliflower. Yeah.
Wow, that's pretty good, because that's stuff you wouldn't normally grow, because I don't grow broccoli because it takes forever, and you just get what you get. But that would be great if you were doing aquaponics.
What we do is we use little, and we've talked about this before, but bait plants. So if you want to do something like that and have them actively in your cannabis system all the time, use them as bait plants. Plant a couple of little veggies, and even put them in party cups and stick them around at the bottom of your grow, just enough where they can get a little bit of light, and where there's a little spot, spotlight them or whatever. But sit them in there, and because they'll act as a bait for insects. If you get insects in there, cannabis is hard to digest for most insects, with the exception of spider mites. And even they will, if you give them something they like better, they'll jump to it. So something like chamomile, or young broccoli, young kale, young cucumbers, Sugar snap peas are another really good one where insects love those and much prefer them, and they're easier on the insect's digestive system for them to attack that. And not only that, you'll know, okay, in the far right part of my grow room, I have a couple of this kind of bug, but it doesn't look like they spread to the rest of it because they're not on any other bait plants. Aside from looking at the plants themselves, obviously, but it gives you basically an idea of what the infestation level is, and then what type of insect you're having. It also helps draw them off of your girls so that you're not just physically pulling them off of them that way by giving them something easier, easier option. It's like if you can go get steak, the best steak or whatever, if you're vegetarian, Ethiopian spiced pumpkin soup, or just the best food you can think of, or you're going to get McDonald's every day. Of course you're going to get the better meal every day, and the one that doesn't make you sit in the bathroom for half an hour afterwards, like, so. And it works really good, and you can get a pound of chamomile seeds that'll last you 5 years worth of cannabis growing for, I don't know, $12. It's so cheap, and such a cheap control method that and I found it works extremely well. And you know what? If you don't get any bugs, you take them, you transplant them, you put them on the edge of your grow room, and let them continue to act as a bait plant, but grow them out. You don't have to compete with space for your girls, unless you're going a complete scrog or something like that, and you're really just is zero light underneath. But even then, putting a few young plants that are stretching and kind of weak, again, the plant's immune system is weak from lack of light and not really doing super hot. The insects are going to, again, prefer that over the cannabis plant because it's an easier target. Its immune system is going to be weaker. It'll be easier to get attacked by the insects. So they're going to pick the easiest target.
Yeah, it's
not always, but not 100% of them will, but it helps quite a bit. And that's the whole idea behind integrated pest management. No one thing's gonna be a silver bullet, but if I do that, and then I'm pulling my plants or spraying those bait plants, regularly, I replace them every 2 to 4 weeks, anyways, and then I'm also doing the making sure the humidity is dialed in, and making sure I'm doing my silica, and making sure I'm keeping up with my spraying of kapow, and all those things combined makes it pretty freaking miserable for an insect to survive in there, because it's awful. He's being attacked all the time. It's not the right conditions. It sucks for him. Why so the more unforgiving you can make it, and more punishing you can make it for them, without necessarily resorting to harsh chemicals or other pest control methods that are more or less unscrupulous or untoward, is going to be the better way to the best way to have the best results with the least amount of harsh compounds being used.
Mm-hmm. And that's old school stuff too. There, companion plants, or like you call them, bait plants. That they either run them off. There's plants that can run off pests, and there's other, like you said. I love that idea, because I've got 4 leach trays doing nothing. Dutch leach trays. I could fill them with hydroton or perlite or Pro Mix, and plant some freaking broccoli. Because the leach tray is unobtrusive, and it'd be perfect for like broccoli or cauliflower or something, like that, to put around a grow room. And for those of y'all who don't know what it is, look up Dutch leach tray. You'll find it's really made for a 40-inch Rockwell slab, but you can be innovative and make use of it to grow anything. I used to do lettuce. I used to use it as a hydroponic lettuce tray. And I made a foam raft for the top, and then I put my little 2-inch net pots, and I put my lettuce in there, and I floated it, and I just kept it filled with water with about 600 parts per million of nutrients in it, and I had lettuce all the time. Just using them Dutch leach trays as like a shallow water culture, I guess you'd call it, or deep water culture, kind of thing. So you can, if you're innovative and inventive and have that kind of mind, you can take stuff you got laying around and do it. But that's excellent. The companion plants, excellent. Nice little segue there. Yep. Wake up, everybody.
Do you guys have any, sorry, I didn't realize I still had my mic muted. Do you guys use any other kind of, I don't know, maybe less conventional IPM?
As for me right now, what I'm trying to start using and to see how it works for IPM is the Oriental Herbal Nutrient Korean natural farming style. Right now, I think I mentioned it probably last Thursday about how I started a fermentation on some ginger to see how that does.
Yeah.
And I'll start doing garlic probably this next week and see how that does as well.
Yeah, I owe you an apology, Brain. I didn't get to, I told you I was going to go check that out because it's so intriguing, and I didn't get a chance to do that because I wanted to be able to talk to you next time about it. And I'm sorry, I'll try to make sure I get that before next week so we can talk when it comes up.
It's all good. You know, I understand with your eyesight problems and whatnot how it must be a little more unmotivating to read through something than watch a video, you know. But I think that's actually how it is for most people anyway, you know. I pretty much, like I said, I just typed that whole thing off the top of my head and just included a few pictures in there, you know. But
that's the best way to do it.
definitely been meaning to go in there and add some links for other YouTube channels where they go into depth about how to do it, you know, because I just don't feel like there's any reason to repeat videos that have been made countless times by other people that go into great detail, you know. So I'll basically find whatever videos I feel like are most suitable to educate whoever's trying to learn about that, and I'll post those up. Hopefully tomorrow I should have plenty of time. You know, I kind of took today as a rest day because it's just been pretty crazy this week. You know, today was really one of the only chances that I was able to really peek in on my garden. I've got like maybe 2 days to really do stuff in the past week where I'm actually able to, you know, do whatever needs to get done around the garden or whatever. And so I just haven't had a chance to go and update that post. But like I said, tomorrow it'll get done. I actually took the time out to post another video to my YouTube channel about just the garden update because things are actually moving along pretty quickly. So that's always good.
Awesome.
And thank you very much for doing that.
No problem, guys.
Well, I appreciate you guys bringing me on and letting me tell my story. Hopefully it'll help somebody out there because it sure has helped me, and my way of life has changed. It's just a complete 180.
So we had a interesting question in chat. He goes, "Do you think that like nurseries and garden centers, the cannabis industry will require incensed nurserymen? What do you mean by that? Oh, licensed nurseries? Is that what you mean?" So actually, that's an interesting question. So California actually has a whole separate category for nurseries. The Class 4 license in California, a Class 4 cultivation license is strictly for nurseries. It's actually one of the cheaper licenses to go after as well. It's just a little bit. The market is a little bit, I guess, more dicey because you have to rely on distributing large quantities of clones sometimes can be a little tricky, but with an entire industry trying to get online overnight, it shouldn't be too big of a problem, at least in the beginning. Plus, when everyone can grow their 6, or I guess in California, what is it, 12 now per household? I think it is. Without a medical card. Yeah. So I know I'm in the market for some clones right now. So. I finally got that greenhouse up and running, and I got a bunch of stuff potted up while we're getting it new greenhouse set up, which that'll be a whole video in and of itself. And then, man, I gotta see how much I got a big project I'm gonna be working on here in the next few months, and I gotta see how much of that I'll be allowed to broadcast. Hopefully, they'll let me.
So no good videos from what was it, Tuesday?
Oh yeah. I had a really awesome visit. Was it Tuesday, Wednesday? Wednesday, I think it was, I went and visited Spectrum King, and that was really freaking cool. Spectrum King is a really, really cool facility. Brendan and Orr were really awesome. They were kind enough to give me a full tour, and then spend some time with me. We talked about a bunch of really awesome stuff. And it was really cool. I got to see a bunch of their new prototype stuff. I think the only one that I'm allowed to talk about right now is they have a new greenhouse light that'll be coming out that's similar to the XK600, but it's more of a smaller shadow footprint. So and it's more watertight, so that you don't have to worry about humidity or dripping on top of the unit inside of a greenhouse setting. And then it also is, it's a smaller. The unit itself is smaller, so that doesn't cast as much of a shadow. And that was pretty cool. I think I'm allowed to talk about that. Everything else, they showed me some really tricked out cool shit. And like one of the coolest ones, I don't think I'm allowed to tell you about, so I won't get myself into trouble. But they got some cool stuff coming out soon, and it was really neat. So big shout out to them. If anyone else is out there and has a company, I'm always happy to come by for a visit if I'm in the area and shoot some video, and we'll do a video on you guys. I just happened to be driving up there, and he saw that I was driving up through LA, and him and I both. Spectrum King guys and me both know Fish Ganja Guy, and we all got together and had a cool time over there. They also have a pretty cool testing lab. Got a chance to see some Gavitas in a side by side against the SKs, and that was pretty cool. And I don't know, a bunch of different cool stuff. Those guys are really awesome. Again, I can't say highly enough, and they're just thanks again for letting us do a tour of your place and doing video there and showing people how how their grow lights are made. So that was really cool. Yeah, I will have a bunch of more cool stuff coming up. Again, almost everything I've been working on this last week I can't tell you guys about yet. So as soon as they make the public announcement, I'll be sure to scream it from the rooftops, but I'm not allowed to talk until then. But
that's right. Can't let the cat out of the bag.
No, you got to make sure everything's secured. At this point, I'm done talking about anything, even if they told me to, until we have the permits finalized, because I've done that a couple of times on the show where I talk about like me going to Jamaica in the beginning. We had permitted land. I literally had a copy of it for 1,600 acres, all for growing cannabis. And then they called a snap election and took away all the land between the time I bought my plane ticket and the time I flew to Jamaica. And then we had to reapply all over again in other areas of the island instead, and basically redo all the work that we did. And it dramatically complicated the project to the point where that project was supposed to be online quite a long time ago, and now, because of things completely out of our control, is now hopefully online by next April. We'll see. So it's comical some days how much a change in regulation or a change in laws or something just totally throws a wrench in your sprockets.
There's no get rich quick. There's no get rich quick scheme in cannabis.
Oh no! If you haven't gotten,
you work for years and
yes,
and you
pay for it in migraines.
Still building it.
You pay for it in migraines and hair pulled out of your skull.
Yeah. You can be happy. You can be happy and smoked up and have a few dollars, but yeah, unless you already have $1 million. Forget about getting rich quick in cannabis. Just because you moved to Colorado or California ain't going to make you rich in the cannabis industry. Yeah. Sorry, didn't want to pop anybody's balloon or bubble out there.
Yeah, no, it's definitely not something you can just drop into and make a ton of money. You need to. It's brutal. Like, first off, you're gonna all of your banking, anything having to do with your money situation is going to be audited, pretty much automatically. And anything else, like anything you do related to the actual sale of the product, is going to be scrutinized to the umpteenth degree, because if they can find one thing to screw you on, they're going to maximize their profits on that. And because you're a cannabis company, no one's going to come to your aid. It gets brutal with some of this stuff. In fact, we talked about this on the show the other day. What state was it where they caught that guy stealing money from the tax payments from the cannabis companies? And there's a cannabis company that paid all their taxes, had like a copy of the check they sent in or whatever it was for the state, and the guy was stealing money directly out of the thing. Did you remember
Yeah, we
what it
talked
was?
about Monday. I can't remember which one it was.
Brain grow. Maybe it
I
was
don't
last
remember
week.
exactly.
Yeah. So, maybe we should cover the memory stuff in the first part of the show before we're all super stoned. Um, um, but yeah, we just recently went over that. On how this tax guy was taking money, and then the cannabis company is getting in trouble over it, and they end up doing some investigating and figure out, oh, it's your state employee. So
That wasn't marijuana policy project issue.
no. That was no. Marijuana Policy Project had to do with PNC Bank getting paranoid about
Oh,
federal
okay,
changes in
okay.
federal banking regulations.
Okay, that's right. Okay.
Yeah,
Somebody
that was
else
a little bit different.
that about somebody we were discussing normal and that today.
Oh, actually, on that note, there is something that we could talk about, which we'll talk about on the news show, but in depth. But I don't know if you guys saw. I'll touch on it. There's a handful of stories that I wanted to touch on this show, just because they're. One of them was so unbelievably offensive that it was just like I can't even begin to which we talked about on the show on Monday. But the Flendo Castle thing was completely insane. The cop saying that him smelling weed was justification for executing him in front of his wife and child was no. The answer to that is fucking no. You're wrong. And you're a disturbed human being for thinking that that's okay and justification for shooting someone. That's the only correct fucking answer. That cop deserves to be in jail. You know.
Yeah, I still can't believe that
He was a ragdoll every night for murdering that guy in front of his family. There was no reason for him to die like that. But then do you turn around and use cannabis as a justification for that? There's no fucking way, dude.
This was a guy that worked with kids and did a lot of things.
This guy was at elementary school. First off, no weed was found in the car.
It just smelled like weed.
It just smelled like weed. Well, the officer claimed to have smelled weed, which, as we all know, thanks to not one, but two separate Supreme Court rulings, smell is not probable cause for a search. Meaning, that means fuck all to that cop. That is not admissible in court. That is not usable for a search. If that is the premises for a search, all of it can be thrown out in court. You know, so.
Yeah, it's not as in plain sight. It's not the same thing, and you need to know you need to know your laws too. So if they come to your door, you can say no, you can't come in.
Yep.
Stay inside that threshold. Once you step out that side,
do not step out the door either, no matter what they tell you.
Not go out the door. Yep. You can't come in, and I'm not coming out.
Yep.
Doesn't mean that's gonna win. You're gonna win.
It's time to come back with a warrant.
Yeah, that's right. And we discuss that half the time. Sometimes
half the time they'll force their way in anyway, but if they do, anything admissible is no longer admissible. Right. But anything they can see from the door or through the open windows they can get you on legally. So.
Yep. Keep it put away.
Yep.
Just to tie this back to the story, and just in general, the most disheartening thing about hearing that is knowing that the country's misunderstanding of cannabis can still be used against us, and was used in the worst way against this guy.
Yeah, the absolute worst way. It's justification for murder.
There's no justification for that.
No, none whatsoever.
For those of you who don't know what we're talking about, the guy was stopped. The guy smelled pot. He told him he had a gun in the car.
It was registered. First off, registered, and he was registered to carry a concealed weapon as well.
Right. He told him,
and he was a school guy, worked with children every day. Literally, and not only that, special needs children.
And then the cop asked him for his paperwork, and he would reach for his paperwork, and he was shot.
Yep.
So he was complying. He informed the guy he had a concealed weapon in the car with a permit.
Which is not required in most states. Only a handful of states require you to inform an officer that you have a concealed weapon with you when you're pulled over. That's a politeness thing. You don't have to do that. Some states require, but most do not.
The officer appreciates it if you do.
Yes, they will absolutely appreciate it if you do. Don't get me wrong. It'll help you in the long run. I'm not telling you not to do that, but I'm just saying legal obligation-wise.
In this case,
yeah,
it got
in my
shot.
state. Yeah, in my state, you don't even have to show anything. So, and I believe in his state as well. He did not even have to tell the officer that he had a permit.
Yep. So, yeah, that was just completely insane. And just it was the longer that Jeff Sessions and these other, you know, dinosaurs of the past are in power, the more people are going to die over stupid shit like this. And I know there's a lot of racial aspects to this case too, but no one should be dying for racial or cannabis reasons. This is fucking bullshit. This is 2017, guys. This is America. We're better than this.
People need to wake up.
Also wanted to mention the fact that the NRA went along with this argument, and that's the reason that they have been silent over this whole thing, is that they went along with this whole ruse about how this cop smelled cannabis in the car, and I believe that they may have found, like, I think we mentioned on the last show, it was like less than a quarter ounce that they found on him, or whatever,
in that car,
you know.
in total, I think it was. But even that, how many times do they fucking plant it? You know how many times they plant that shit in Philadelphia when I grew up? All the fucking time. All the time they'd plant drugs on people.
Right, but I was just gonna get to the point that the NRA used this argument saying that even though he was a registered gun owner, or however that goes, the fact that he may or may not have had some cannabis on him, basically, what's the word I'm looking for? Invalidates his license, because in the law, I believe it states something or other along the lines where you can't have a controlled substance.
Yeah.
And if you do, then that I guess indicates that you're using the gun irresponsibly or whatever. So
right, yeah, that's what they're doing.
But I know a lot of people were angry about the NRA staying silent on the subject, but they, like I said, they went along with the whole fucking bullshit excuse of him having cannabis in the car, and that's why they've remained silent on the subject. So not only once, but twice, this shit was used against him, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And that's amazing, because at the dispensaries in Colorado, they ask you not to carry your concealed weapons in the facility, but they do not stop you from doing it because it's concealed.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, people just need to use their brains. I mean, that's the.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like, you don't have to use your brain to see for your own eyes how far the government went in this case to justify murdering an African American citizen.
Well, he was Hispanic, I believe, wasn't he?
The fact, well, I think he was half, but either way, you know, he had his permit to carry, you know, and they went to great lengths to try to discredit that, you know, and not only that, but justify murder. You know, the fucking cop got off scotch-free, which is bullshit.
That's like saying I saw a beer, I saw an open beer, so I shot him.
Yep.
So he did end up getting off. That is just wow.
It's psychotic.
That
Scotch-free,
cop,
too.
I guarantee you will never show his fucking face in public.
Oh yeah, he's one of those guys that disappears to the Cayman Islands, the Caribbean, or, you know, wherever the fuck they hide those cops these days. Now, you know what? Here's the deal: how many cops out there does everybody know? You know, what was his name? That guy, that one cop that killed the goofy looking one with the big ears. Daryl Wilson, I think it was. He got assaulted and thrown out of a restaurant on 3 separate occasions, and like all this other stuff. Like, these guys are, you know, that's how you want to make sure this stuff ends. You make sure that anytime this guy goes out with his family, you fucking call that asshole out. You make sure if you see his ass at a restaurant, you go yell at his ass. You call his ass out. You make sure these assholes can't fucking go anywhere in the United States without people making their life hell. miserable, refusing them service. You know, that's how you do it. Don't harm them. Don't assault them. Don't hurt their family. Don't hurt their kids. Don't do any of that shit. Make their lives hell. Make the cops that kill these people, their lives hell. But don't hurt, you know, their family, their kids. They didn't do nothing. Don't. And I fucking hate it when people fucking say to do that shit. You know, they didn't do that. But find where that asshole ran off to, and make sure that every time he goes to the grocery store, all the clerks know who he is. You know, and make their life shitty as fuck. That's how you get back at this. Because if they know that their life is over the moment they pull any of this bullshit, and they you know, they're gonna remember that. Think of their family. Think of their kids' future. Think of all that shit, and how much, you know, they're going to be affected by the negative impact that their actions will have. That's how you end this shit, by making it socially unacceptable.
Absolutely.
And that was our rant of the evening, everyone.
Yeah. Yeah, once in a while I get all worked up. And
Brought to you by Oral Florals.
no. No.
No, I'm just kidding. Sponsor. Send your letters.
Oh no, yeah. You're gonna do the Marty part. Complaints and feedback to potentponics at gmail.com, or I'm sorry, apmeds at gmail.com.
That's Marty.
Yeah. Or Marty Weidel on Facebook. Make sure.
No.
They
know we're just kidding.
Yeah.
They know we're just kidding.
But there's one other case that I want to bring up, because this is going to have enormous implications for the entire cannabis market throughout the United States, as well as banking. And it just happened today, actually yesterday. So yesterday, Bank of America was named as a defendant in an Oregon civil RICO case. Now, this is the first time the feds have used RICO laws to go after an international corporation like Bank of America. Second of all, one of the 6 big banks. They've never done that before. And third of all, they've never used RICO. They never go after a big bank. And this is going to theoretically could set case law and push the banking issue one way or the other. Meaning force the feds to fuck off about RICO cases. Meaning if that's the case and they don't ever have to worry about the RICO prosecutions, banks have a much less liability than in order to deal with these cannabis companies. The RICO liability is one of the biggest reasons why they don't deal with them right now. So depending on how this goes, could solve this once and for all, or it could make it so that it's even harder than it already is to do cannabis business. So this is going to be a huge case, and it's going to have enormous implications for the entire industry. And I haven't really heard anybody talk about it yet. I know my roommate showed me this today, and I was just like, what? Because it's fucking crazy. But basically, they're naming them as a defendant because they own the bank loan, own the loan and the mortgage on a property that was being used by a dispensary that the feds are going after in a RICO case, despite the fact that, we're meeting state law and blah, 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 blah. But they're saying that the Bank of America knowingly permitted the production and processing of cannabis to continue after and were deriving profit from such activities monthly since November of 2015. But yeah, that's going to have, again, huge implications for the entire cannabis market, depending on how that case goes one way, like regardless of how it ends. So short of a settlement or something weird. HC Music says, charge them double for donuts if you're a donut shop owner.
That's in regards to like treating them like shit.
Yeah. So
the old story, the last rant during the rant, yes.
Yeah.
Addressing the rant.
But I wanted to touch on those real quick, and then I think we're gonna wrap up the show unless anybody else has anything. Big thank you to Ouroboros Farms. Again, we will have the set of classes up here soon. Now that I'm up and not too far from where he is, I'll be able to touch base with him in the next week and get those up for the classes for the rest of the year for the cannabis and medicinal herbs. And yeah, thanks again, Spectrum King, for letting us visit. Be sure to check out Marty's Patreon. I think he's AP Meds on Patreon. I forget what the exact thing is. I know he's putting a lot of effort and content into it, and he's having to do that with juggling a new baby. So, be sure to go and show him some love.
Okay. Patreon's another new social media thing.
It's like a way where you can charge a small amount of money and people can support you, and you can put it like a little bit of content that gets put out earlier there before it goes out on YouTube. Or
I
that
got
kind of
you.
thing.
Subscribe.
It's like a way to have like a premium area of your content that you can offer
Awesome.
people a few extra things. I know Rob Bob out there does it, and Marty does it, and a handful of other AP people do it. I think what's his name? Rob Torcellini has got a really good one. You can check him out as well. I've had a pleasure meeting him a couple times, so definitely check them out as well. Brain Grow, let's tell people how to find you.
Yeah, you can find me on Instagram at BRAYNE_GRO, and my YouTube channel is the same thing. And like I mentioned earlier, I took the time earlier today to go through and basically make a garden update video to explain what's been going on lately and what's fixing to start happening. So I'll finally be having some new strains that I'll be able to take into flowering pretty soon. So I'm definitely looking forward to that, as I've pretty much been limited to the 2 strains that I've been growing for a while now. So
Yeah, you are.
that's pretty much it. Yeah, and then also Roger will plug it later, because he's a moderator of the website, but also you can have open conversations with me over at ilovegrowingmarijuana.com under the same name, Brain Grow. So check that out as well.
Awesome.
Thank you.
How can people find you there, Hogmaster?
I'm also on ilovegrowingmarijuana.com at the forum. If anybody has any questions for me about anything from growing to getting off of pharmaceuticals, you can find me there.
Alrighty. Roger, how about you?
Well, I'm working on my network, and I can't discuss that either at this point because, it's the same kind of deal. But I'm the administrator at ilovegrowingmarijuana.com, and kind of turned out to kind of like an ilovegrowingmarijuana.com show tonight with some expert expert knowledge shared by Steve on a bunch of topics, which was really cool because we haven't had a show since I've been on that Steve was able to share so much himself. I thought it was pretty cool when we got into the biologicals and kind of rehashed some of the shows that, so it was kind of nice having Hogmaster on, and Brain Grow all talking about the past 2 or 3 shows and then clarifying some of that information. I could see how that would be if I hadn't been doing this for 12 years. I could see how it would be mind-boggling, some of what we talk about, or when you guys start talking, and that's why I'm always going, wait a minute. What is that? You tell them what that means. Okay. But yeah, it's a great night. It's nice. It's very nice. It's a great show tonight. But that's where I'm at. ilovegrowingmarijuana.com. We've got a network that does also kind of fall into that premium level coming up for some live support, one-on-one live. And we also have a store where we're going to be selling all the specialty products. And I'm trying to hook up selling everything that's ever here on the show as part of the panel. That gives me a little bit of insight, I feel bad. Was it Gavin from MFP?
Colin.
Okay, there was Colin and Gavin. I know that's what all right. Anyway, Colin openly said, "Oh well, you can get some samples from me. I'll, blah blah blah." But I also I talked to him about maybe. You can go
on their website, and they have a sample thing, and you put in your information, and then depending on where you live, they'll either send one to you or they'll direct you to a nearby hydro store to pick up a sample.
Right. They've got a program where if you go to your local hydro store, they will send, and you can get them to sign up. You can actually just, if they want to sign up, they'll get registered, and then you can get free samples at the store. And that's how the program that is in place. Thank you, Steve. That was good. Yeah, it was good memory there. But we're going to try to get where we can carry products like that and see what Black Dog and Spectrum King might do with us, and try to add. I don't want to be your same old online hydro store. I want to have specialty products and things that are especially made for high level cannabis growing, and things that we use that we know that works, not everything on the planet. And again, we'll be getting away mostly of we won't be selling, we're not going to sell chemical nutrients really. I'm going to be selling Robert's nutrients, and that's about it. So that's what I'm doing, building the network and hanging out with Steve Mondays and Thursdays. Monday we got Last Week in Cannabis, where we discuss a bunch of news articles about cannabis politics, and rail on Jeff Sessions a little bit if we can.
Oh yeah, I think we're gonna have to just. I think until he's gone, because he comes up now so much, we're just gonna have to have like a This Week in Jeff Sessions, or like Sessions shit or some shit like that. Maybe we'll just do Sessions shit.
Yeah, do a whole show on Sessions shit. Yeah, there you go.
Well, we should do like a roast when he's done. When he finally gets fired, we should just do like, the Growing with Fishes roast of Jeff Sessions.
We got to get everybody.
We should do that. We should do that every time an attorney general or a DEA head of the DEA leaves. That'd be great. Let's go over all the shit they did wrong. That'd be kind of funny.
That'd be fun. So
one thing I wanted to mention. I think I said it on the news show, but it was too good a news for me not to share. If I said this again last Thursday, I apologize. Has made a huge turn for the better health-wise, and he's stabilized quite a bit, and he's now doing much better than he was. I know he was not looking super great for his prognosis for a bit, but it looks like they were wrong initially on what they thought was wrong. So, that's really, really awesome.
The name of who you were speaking of, Steve, broke up when you said it on my end. So could you repeat whose name you're talking about?
Sure. What the hell is it called? Oh, Dennis Perrone. Dennis Perrone is the one. For those of you guys who don't know who Dennis Perrone is,
Right.
Dennis Perrone is the grandfather of cannabis, of medical cannabis, or why any of you guys or any of us why we're even a show right now. He's the one who wrote California 215 and got the ball rolling on medical cannabis in the United States. And without him, none of us would be doing this right now. And I had the pleasure of meeting him on actually multiple occasions. I couldn't be more grateful for that opportunity. And I'm so happy to hear that his health is doing better than it was, because it wasn't not looking good there for a minute. So I know we did kind of a tribute podcast to him a couple months ago because it wasn't looking too great, and it's nice to hear that he thinks we both agree that those doctors are full of shit, and it's good to see that he's doing better. Tributes. Yep.
Well, good show tonight, Steve.
Yep. Thanks, and I'm gonna. If you guys want to reach me, you can always email me at potentponics@gmail.com. If you have any questions, feedback, guests for the show, we're definitely looking for some more guests. I have a couple of people queued up. Next week will be Quest humidifiers. They're originally going to be on along with, actually he was on the show during Mammoth P, and then he had to leave because something came up last minute. So with us next week, and then I have a couple other people that I'm in talks with, but we definitely could use a few more people in the queue. So if you know anyone else, or you guys have people you'd like to write to, please definitely email me or leave a comment in the video. And for those of you who don't know as well, I did set up SoundCloud, so definitely go check out SoundCloud if you need if you want to listen to the audio version of the podcast. So.
Thanks especially to everybody who takes the time to view us live, guys. We appreciate y'all.
Thank you, and thanks for your questions too. It definitely adds to the show.
And I really appreciate you guys having me on. It's an honor to be on.
Thanks.
Anytime, you're welcome to. And we enjoy having you, and we also enjoy, Marty and I started this originally, and there really wasn't anyone else that we could do the show, you know, in the beginning. And now we have me and Marty, and to a lesser extent Fish Ganja Guy, and Roger now, and Brain Grow, that are all now regular, you know, on the show almost every episode, or as many as episodes as they're able to. And you know, we have, you know, we don't have everybody every week, but we have, you know, at least 3 or 4 people every week now, and it's you know, really adds to the show. And we have, you know, different questions or different people's opinions or different people's experiences, and I've loved to I really enjoy how the show has grown. So thanks for everyone's support and continued support. And again, if you have anyone that you want on the show, please let us know. And or if you want to be on the show, let us know what you do and why you think you should be on the show, and maybe we'll pick you. So thanks a lot, and we'll see you guys next week. Take care. Well, I guess we'll see you on Monday when we do the new show.
Last week in cannabis.
Yep. Alrighty. Take care, guys. Cheers.